Hello, family, friends, and fans. I'm Fletcher Rhoden, and this is Shoulder to Shoulder, Track by Track. It's one of my, you know, ongoing series of mini series that go through my albums, track by track. So my new one is called Shoulder to Shoulder, and for the next uh, 8 days, not including today, we're going to go through it track by track. So the first thing you may notice is that there's a link below this video. That's for the entire playlist that you'll find on YouTube. So you can listen to the album and watch the video. The video is just the cover. But you can listen to every song. You can listen to the whole album right now for free if you go to the link below. Some people prefer to get a new song every day for however many days there are consecutively. Some people like to hear the whole thing first, and then they know what they're getting into. But from now on, subsequently, the videos will have a link to each song. Like tomorrow is the first song on the record, "Wish You Were Her," and that'll have its own link to its own song, and every video will have a link to its own song. So you got a lot of options. Isn't that nice? All right, let's see a brief rundown of this record. This is an overview kind of a episode. I always do these. Start with a rundown of the whole thing. Then we'll do it song by song. So wow, I was living in Colombia, in Medellin, Colombia, last year. This album, I've been working on it for about a year, on and off with other projects. So uh, I was in Colombia and I was on a real writing tear. What happened is the confluence of two events. One event was that when I was in Ecuador before being in Colombia, I wound up working on two a cappella records. One is called Under the Wolf Moon, and one is called Under the Christmas Moon. And I just they're a cappella because I had no instruments, but they were also having power outages in Ecuador at the time, and I wanted to busy myself, so I just decided to make these records a cappella. But I found it very constricting because I could only do so much with my voice in terms of a cappella. So I kept the songs really limited, three, four chords at the most. None of these big, long, expansive musical explorations. These were small, concise little ditties. So that had happened. And then when I wound up in Medellin for 6 months, I was in a condo that had a electric keyboard and a guitar. So then I went crazy with the songwriting, really getting out my expressive musical journeyman uh, desires, which I couldn't do with just a cappella. So I made a record while I was there and finished it and released it, City of Eternal Spring, sort of my Latin record. And then I just started doing all kinds of things. I was working on a ballads record, I was working on a country record. Those are both going to come out later in life. But at one point, I decided, you know what, I'm going to do a Steely Dan kind of record. I had an electric piano there. That's a Steely Dan kind of a sound, and was using drum loops. And I just decided if I'm going to do that, I'm going to do it. So I put my other musical wanderings. I mean, for 6 months, I was just writing and recording and writing and recording. I'm retired now, so that's all I really had to do. So I decided to make this Steely Danish kind of record. This is my jazz pop kind of record, right? And at the time, this was about a year ago. Would have been like spring of 2025. There was this event. It was called Operation Midnight Hammer, and it was uh, Washington, the United States of America, led by Donald Trump, bombed Iran from out of nowhere, it seemed. Okay, Operation Midnight Hammer. And everyone was talking about that at the time. And it was it World War III breaking out? I think it was. But at the time, everyone was talking military. The news was filled with the reports of these military things. Venezuela had just happened. So, and anyone who knows my work, who watches any of these little installations of uh, track by track, know that I write songs by keeping a list of phrases that I either hear or think of. Mostly I hear them, excuse me, and I write them down, and then I write songs from them. And these become the titles and so on. So at that point in time, there was a lot of military talk and a lot of military jargon being thrown around. Shoulder to shoulder. That's a military term for for an alliance. If you're talking about, we fought shoulder to shoulder with the Canadians in World War II, like that. So, I happen to have a lot of these that week or that 10-day period, that 2 week period that I was making my list of songs to write happened to be Midnight Hammer week. So I was writing a lot of things down. Operation Love, which had things like Boots on the Ground, Support from Above, um, Shoulder to Shoulder, which is filled with military jargon, but it's not about war. What I want to say in this overview thing is that this is not an anti-war album or like a anti-government protest 60s style anti-war record. I am anti-war. I am. Uh, I think war is bad. Okay. If you come to Fletcher Rhoden and you say, "Is war good?" I'd say, in general, no. If you're asking Fletcher Rhoden, should I do a war? I'd say, don't. But there happened to be this thing going on. However, my album, Shoulder to Shoulder, is about romances. It's like the Wendy Theory, my album, The Wendy Theory. It's all about romances, which is weird because I don't have any of those, but I still understand what they are. And what I've done is with these records, with these songs mostly, is sort of use the military jargon as a metaphor for romantic entanglement. Does that make sense? So I thought of it as love militarized. Because, Operation Love, for example, that song, it's about a seduction. It's about beginning a love affair. It's about creating a romance of timeless truth, whatever it is. It's not about Iran. It's about making a move on a girl in a bar. It's about it's about becoming boyfriend girlfriend. It's that, Operation Love. We're launching Operation Love. But it has this militaristic tone, and the whole record kind of has that. Not all of it, but enough of it so that it becomes sort of pervasive. There's a there's an analog between an analogy between the idea of going to war and falling in love. And that's kind of this is not a concept record, but if it had any kind of Liet motif, then it would definitely be that. It's love militarized. So there are other interesting things about this record that I'll address as we go through it track by track. It's definitely my Steely Dan record. I'm not going to make any beef about it. And it's not like I keep changing myself every 6 months. 6 months ago, I had a rap record out under the name, well, it was under the name Fletcher Rhoden, but the title was AKA Fender Rhodes. All right. And I performed under the name Fender Rhodes. And there's a video of that. Before that, only days before that, really, I released these two a cappella records. So it's not like I'm going from barbershop to rap to this. I've worked on all these things together. You know, like my next bunch of records, I've already recorded them. And I just sort of coupled them together by theme. You know, I've always been kind of a wanderer, and this is my way of wandering musically. So this is where I am in the Steely Dan area. You know, now I will say when I recorded and wrote most of this album, I considered it pretty much isolated. The other records, I sort of swap songs, move a song from this one to that one, because I'm working on like 5 albums at once, right? But in this one, I tried to keep it isolated, but it did succumb to a good amount of, well, maybe I'll cut this song and take this song from this album and put it on here, and it works just as well, you know, because I work on a lot of music at once, and I'm hard on it, and I'm scrupulous, so I cut a lot of things and throw them away. But what you wound up with here is 8 songs. They're kind of long in the Steely Dan style, like Asia or Gaucho, or one of those. Good record, slick, kind of a New York sound to it. Uh, Good guitar playing, I humbly assert. I hope you agree. A lot of good arrangement stuff. I was experimenting a lot with my arrangements in this period. So you'll hear it on things like this record and the next two. That there's a lot of long arrangements, because no one's here to tell me not to do that. No one says it's got to be 3 minutes and 30 seconds. So, as far as I'm concerned, it can be 7 minutes if I want it to be. And that's what you're going to hear. So, check it out. Enjoy it. There's a playlist link below. It's right on YouTube where you're seeing this video, probably. And then you can hear it all right now, or you can listen to it track by track. That's why I call it track by track. So, check it out right here on this YouTube channel. Thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow for the first song analysis and the kickoff. And enjoy it. Until then, bye, Mary.